Hello everybody, it's Stefan of the iMoot team. I've got the great pleasure to introduce Shane Elliott to you, who's going to do his presentation Ménage à Trois, Labels, Completion and Conditional Access. Shane Elliott is the owner of Pukunui. Well, he's the owner of 3 Pukunuis. Pukunui is the company which does e-learning, consultation, implementation, and so on and so forth. They've been a Moodle partner till very recently. Set up in 2000, and most importantly, Shane is one of the people who started iMoot, so he deserves a huge thank you for this great idea anyway. And I've seen lots of Shane's presentations, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm going to hand over to you, stop my rambling, and take it away, Shane.
Oh, thank you. I don't know who you were talking about then, but I want to meet them. They sound wonderful. Yeah, Gareth. Yeah, there is some of my code in core, but yeah, it needs rewriting. All right, thank you. I think I should share my webcam just very quickly. Although now that I've thought about that, I probably should have put on a better-looking T-shirt. So, hello. Yeah, hello from Hong Kong, where it's been quite stormy today. Okay, I might kill the webcam though, unless if that's all right, I can keep talking with the webcam on. All right. If the audio gets a bit choppy, let me know. Yeah, where we live in Hong Kong is. Yeah, we live actually a bit out from the main city, so we've got jungle behind us and so on. So and the internet connection sometimes drops when there's storms coming through. So right, so this presentation, yeah, just looking at labels, completion, and conditional access. Yeah, it's really it's not difficult stuff. This is not advanced usage of Moodle, I would say. I've made the assumption most people are familiar with Moodle and have some familiarity with these systems. And where this came about, well, one was Wendy, who was doing the scheduling for iMoot, needed a presentation slot. So that's probably one main reason for doing it. But the other one was I get to do a lot of consultations, go out to organisations and schools, and quite often I get questions. I had one about 2 weeks ago, which really did trigger my thoughts about this. Where I ended up sitting with a teacher who had she had several pages of just questions of can she do this in Moodle. And it was really good because a lot of it provoked me to think about what Moodle could do. And but one of the questions that got me, we'll get to this too, is she was just asking about can she get a video to display in Moodle, but only with certain requirements, and the not the simplest of requirements. And I had to think for a minute. I thought, actually, you can do that with just simply with a label and these completion requirements and conditional access. It's possible, but it was something I'd never thought about before. So I thought, you know, maybe I'll share some of these ideas and some of the other ones I've got around. And let me say this: at the end of the day, I'm no great expert in coming up with these ideas. And if you have ideas about how we can use these things too, you know, I presented this earlier today, this session, and there were some great ideas coming out of that one. I thought, well, I should try and implement some of these eventually and put together like a demo course of all the different ideas we have. So if you have ideas, shoot away in the chat. As long intro. Yeah, about me. Yeah, it's really not that interesting. What can I say? My background is, yeah, I was a teacher for a few years, a mathematics and physics teacher at high schools. I got over that very quickly and got back to development. So I have a degree in developing as well. And managed to get involved in Moodle right at the very start of it. So I used to program with Martin at his house, actually, and then kind of grew from there. And we got into the company Pukunui, separate to Moodle, but we do e-learning services, as Stefan said. That's it. That's a photo of, so I'm pointing at this screen because it's the one above it that I'm looking at, not there. So, that's just a photo of my daughter, my eldest daughter. So she's old enough to give me those looks now. Yeah. Oh, Dad looks. By the way, it's just awesome to provoke those looks out of her. So the plan in this session is just to give an overview of completion tracking, overview of conditional access, how we go about turning those systems on, and then I've got 5 examples, and I'll talk through how I've set those up, and so on, and then a quick summary, questions, drink time if we need it. So I'm sure it's bear o'clock somewhere in the world. Actually, it is here. So. Actually, I just noticed my slides, it's lost the background image. It's quite a fancy image in the background. So an overview of completion tracking. And so this is really, there's 2 questions to ask. What does it mean to complete an activity in Moodle? And because some of the activities, they're not accessible items in the sense of getting a grade. Or you may choose to ignore the grade and it's something else you want from it. So a forum would be a good example. You can use ratings to get grading information out, but that may not be what you want to assess. What you want to assess is, are people actually using the forum? Are they collaborating, or are they initiating discussions? Yeah, so you can put completion requirements on it that they have to, post so many, start so many new discussions or reply to other people's posts. So the completion of activity is different to getting a grade for it. Likewise, what does it mean to complete a course? Because you may get a grade at the end of the course, but that doesn't mean you've completed the course. So there's different criteria you can set for completing a course. And likewise, conditional access. Really, it's a question about is there some sort of sequencing of events or some sort of workflow you want to put into it? Or do people manage, without that, people could access all the different activities whenever they wanted in any order, but you may want to force a sequence to that or some sort of workflow. I've got these little XKCD cartoons in there. I don't know if people are familiar with them. I love them. They're very nerdy, geeky cartoons. So I feel like I should pause so everyone's read that one. Yeah. There's so much insight in his cartoons. I love them. So I think he does 3 every week. So that's right. If you go to the site, the actual webpage, what I really like about his little cartoons is the alternate text. If you put your mouse over the image, it's the alternate text he puts in it. And they're quite often they're sarcastic but very witty comments that he puts in there. All right, hang on. So turning the systems on. Both the completion tracking and the restricting access or conditional access are both turned on in an area in the site administration called Advanced Features. The advanced features, so you need to be a site administrator, that's the first thing. So a site administrator needs to turn these systems on. These 2 are both off by default. So if you want to use them within your courses, it requires a site administrator to go into this area and turn them on. And in the advanced features, it's really just a big list of different systems in Moodle that you can turn on and off. Now these 2 are towards the bottom of the list. So I've just highlighted, taken a screenshot of where they are, well, of the settings, but it's towards the bottom of the list in advanced features. And as I said, by default, these are off. It just requires a site administrator to turn these on. Now for the restricted access, once it's on here, it's available throughout the site. Completion tracking does require another step, which is turning it on per course. So once it's on at the site level, if you go into a course, into the administration, edit settings, there'll be this extra little group of settings just called completion tracking. So if you don't see it in the settings, it just means it hasn't been turned on at site level. But if you do see it there, it is off by default as well. So you need to turn that on if you want to use it for your course. So it can be turned on and off per course. And there's some reasons behind that. It just because completion tracking does some background processing with that's really that important. Just puts a bit more load on the servers. That's really minimal. And so once they're on, you'll see in any activity or resource that you add into your Moodle course, and when you edit the settings, there'll be two more groups of settings. So they're under the common module settings. So one section is restrict access, and you can add little restrictions in there. And then there's one that's activity completion. And so we can add requirements. What does it mean to complete an activity? I'm using the mouse to point, and I realise that's just a little red dot for you. And I guess one of the reasons these systems are off by default is it's more settings to go through. I know they're collapsed up, but it's just more settings to deal with. So it can be quite scary, I guess, for someone who's coming into Moodle first time. There's just mountains of settings when you want to set something up. But again, Moodle's quite flexible and has a lot of options in it. It's quite rich in features, so that's the trade-off. So talking about conditional access restrictions, I've taken a couple of shots there. So where the red dot is, this is where I've added a few restrictions in there from the list. That's just how it's laid out. The reason I've done that is just to demonstrate where the dot is. There is some logic in there. Oh, Guida, yes, I will try to come back to that at the end, actually. Is with the logic, you can do conditions, so you can say must or must not. So you had the negative logic. The any and the all conditions change these from all conditions to and conditions. So you've got or and not conditions. And you also have groups, so restriction sets. So it's basically like having brackets. So if you are someone who gets into those logic statements, you can actually complete any sort of logic arrangement that you want to with this setup. And these are the different types of restrictions you can have in Moodle. So very quickly, just going through them. Activity completion is really, it's looking to see you can't access this activity until another activity is being marked as complete. So whatever that means for the other activity. Date is just a date or time, a date and time stamp. So something's released by date and time. Grade just means it's released by the grade that you might have gotten in a previous activity. Group, so the group conditions are now in here. Previously in Moodle, you had to use groupings, that's a few versions ago now, and do that through a different interface. It's always made sense to me that the group conditions should be in here. So I was very happy when they did appear. So basically, that's just saying this activity is only available to users who belong to a certain group. The user profile fields is it's just putting it's basing the availability of this activity based on some information from a user's profile. Just as a slight digression, we actually did the work for the user profile field. So Pukunui did that work and we got in the core code. And we were contracted by the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. So they're the government department that deals with weather services. And in their Moodle sites, what they had to do with their training is they had to release resources based on what state of Australia that the forecasters were in because of different regulations. And so they have their own custom user profile fields, and one of them is what state they're in. And so they just wanted this to be able to selectively release resources based on the state that the user had in their profile. Why I mention that is it was actually a great way to get the code done. So they paid us to do development, but asked if we could do it in such a way it got into core code. So we worked with the headquarters and we got it in there. Why that's really smart is they've only paid for the development once, but now the Moodle headquarters is responsible for doing the upgrades of the code through all the versions. So they never have to worry about paying for upgrades of the customization that they wanted. So I just say that as if you are in an organization and you do want some custom plugins or there's some changes to the code you want, it's a good idea for whoever is doing that development, whether you're outsourcing it or doing it in-house, is try to work with the Moodle headquarters and see if there's a generic way that you can get it done where it will be accepted into the core code, because it kind of pays it, future-proofs it a bit. So. And restriction sets, as I said, these are just bracketed groups of restrictions. Spent a bit more time on that one than I intended. Activity completion requirements. So this is the other section. So what does it mean to complete an activity? Basically, oh, if it is anyone else, should I? Yep. Okay, Josh, yeah. I might kill the webcam. I'll keep the webcam going. We'll see how it goes. I hate looking at my own face though. That's the. So the activity completion. So it's just setting. What does it mean to complete this activity? That set of requirements there, the little boxes, does depend on the type of resource or activity. So for this one, this is actually the completion requirements that comes with a forum activity. But some of them, like resources, it's only the top ones available require a view if you want to automatically do it. So it does depend on the activity. Yeah, I will drop it. I was aware of that. So there we go. All right. So, and as I said, I'm doing it as a brief overview, but kind of the assumption that people have played with these systems. So let me move on. Oops. That was a slide in there to tell me to stop waffling on, actually. So let me move on. So 5 examples using labels. Here we go. And why we've chosen labels is that I think they're one of the most useful and versatile tools in Moodle. I remember it was the first iMoot, I think it was. Someone did a presentation on labels in Moodle and said if they could only ever have one activity in Moodle, it would have been the label. And there is a lot you can do with them. I hope you're giggling at the cartoon, not what I just said. Yeah. All right, so moving on, what have we got? So for those who are in the iMoot, and I realise this is being recorded, so that's why I put this slide in here. But on the course page for this presentation, if you go to the course page, there are actually live examples of these the 5 examples I've got here. I've actually implemented them in the course. So you can go through and do these. Thanks, Gareth. That's great. I should make these clickable links, shouldn't I? Anyway, what was I thinking? So let me go through, and as I said, these are just 5 brief examples. You've probably thought of some of these, or maybe all of them. But I just thought I'd share these are ones that I've commonly come across in different organisations or requests for them. Sorry, Stefan, just reading your comment. So example 1 is just policy agreements. And the way to do this is just set a label, and I've got a screenshot of the one I've done in this course, and as I agree to adhere to the superhero code of conduct, it's just a label, and I've set manual completion on the label. In other words, the students have to go and tick the little box that's next to it. And what I've done is everything else that's in the course is restricted based on the fact that you have to complete this label. You have to tick that box before everything else becomes available. And so we've seen a lot of our corporate clients use that as well. So they just have, when their staff go through their induction courses, whatever it is, basically it's just a policy agreement at the top. And I know Moodle has a site-wide policy, but quite often they need it per course because there's different wording or there's different policies to do with that particular course. And they need a record to demonstrate that everyone has agreed to it. Yeah, so Marie, that was just simply setting up a label and then setting manual completion on that label, and then all the other activities in the course I've restricted based on the fact that this label has to be completed. So what I'll do, so in the presentation course is these examples are in there. So I'll back it up. I haven't done it yet, but I'll back up the course and make it available for anyone to download. So you can grab my code and yeah. Or Gareth, you could even do it now if you want to do it back up. Just skip out all the stuff at the top. Second example was simple badges. So while I realise Moodle has the open badges built into it, quite often you just might want to put very simple ones within the course, just little images that you want to put in there. Oh, sorry, Gareth, I was talking about backing up my course for this presentation because it has examples of all these in there. You don't have to do it. I can do it afterwards. I just thought of you. Yeah, no stress at all, Gareth. You can, if you've got time. If not, that's all fine. So simple badges, and so you could use these long time ago before the badges system got into Moodle. But I still see sites that use this because they just want labels in the course. They want it on, in that central page for little badges to appear. Now I've kind of created these badges. I used the Button Factory website to create these. It was really quick. And what these are just labels with an image in them, and yeah, with different requirements on them. So you have to just meet certain requirements throughout the course, and these will appear for you throughout the course. Got that idea, actually, it might have been Julian Ridden, actually, who set up a history course about a war, and he set it up as sort of a game-playing or role-playing course where all the students were soldiers, and they had to go and do research on different things by clicking on activities and so on. And as they did, they got those little, I don't know what they're called for the soldiers, the little badges they have that they pin to the uniform. And so you could get a series of those throughout the course. So yeah, so very simple badging type system in there. My third example is status notifications. Now, this is one I have seen in a lot of sites where you just want to give information to someone about how they're progressing through the course. You want to give it very visual information in the main page of the course. So in this case, if you do go into my course, you will see there is, in this topic section, there are 3 activities. So one is a label you can just manually click. I think there is a choice activity, choose your superhero origin story, and one is what is your superhero name, which I think might be a forum post, if I remember correctly. Now, you can do those in any order, and what will happen, so these again are just labels like the badges. They're labels with an image in them. Yeah. And different requirements. So there's 4 different labels, and so basically one here 0 of the 3 required tasks, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and 3 of 3 required tasks done. And so four different labels there, coloured them with the traffic light colours because we're all used to those, and with different availabilities, so different restrictions on them. Now, 0 out of 3 is pretty easy because I've just put negative conditions. So the three activities must not be complete, essentially. So that's these 3 here. 1 of 3 required tasks, I had to set up all conditions because I didn't know about the order. So so basically these are restriction sets. So set of 3 conditions, and there's 3 of those that you can meet any one of those restriction sets. And so basically it's saying, the activity 1 is complete, but activity 2 and 3 are not complete, or activity 2 is complete, but activity 1 and 3 Oh, great, thank you, Gareth. Yeah, are not complete. Or activity 3 is complete, but activity 1 and 2 are not complete. And so in that case, you'll do one of the 3 required tasks. And so what you would see from a student's point of view, or your participants in my course, you should only see one of these labels appear at the top at any one time, based on how many of those 3 tasks you finished. So it's just giving you a status for that topic section where you're up to. And so we've seen there's different versions of that, different ways you can use that. So quite often we've also seen people just put a notification at the top of a course that this course is not yet complete. It might just be one label like that, which when they have completed all the requirements, it flicks over to congratulations, you have finished this course. So just a very visual way to do a notification about your status throughout the course. And I realise there are other blocks out there. So there's the progress block that goes with the completion requirements, and there's a few other things. There's even the completion report, but they're not completely in your face in that middle section. And as I said, you can customise this to be per topic, like I have. So there's obviously different ways you can use this. Yeah. So thanks for that, Gareth. So yeah, Gareth just wrote in there that a backup of the course is in the course. Hopefully you didn't back that up with user data, just saying. Great. Fourth one, and this was the example that I came across from a teacher a couple of weeks ago, which got me thinking about this. And her question was, she said, we're using the completion tracking through the course, but some students are lagging behind. And so she said, what we want to do is show a video with a big reminder if a student hasn't got up to a certain point in the course by a certain date and time. And essentially, the way to set this up is a label. I've put in a YouTube clip here, where the red dot is, with a little message above it. But the conditions are, it's basically if you haven't completed an activity, and you could put more in there, and it's after a certain date and time. Oh, and I snapshot that earlier too. I was just thinking the time is wrong for us, but yeah, I changed that to 7 hours later. That's the time in Hong Kong, by the way. Yeah. So it's just a great way. So you can actually say, we could just put a really big, rude reminder. Hurry up. You're lagging behind where you should be in this course. And look, if you have completed it all, you would never see that. So if you've gone into my course and you've added something to that superhero glossary, this just will disappear. It won't be there. So it's basically a reminder that will appear when you're getting behind. So red flagging your users. And the fifth example I have is really the full-on one. And I guess it's putting all these ideas together, and it's just gamifying a course. Or talking about gamification. One of the things really have noticed recently going to a few different conferences is that this whole idea of game-based learning and gamifying learning as well is really taking off, and people are really starting to think about it. And it's not just about making it fun and engaging, although that's obviously a big part of it, but it's also learning that there are concepts in how games are written that helps people learn. So if you think about someone playing a game, a first-person shooter, they actually learn as they go through the game. They learn how to use the different tools that are available to them, and they have to get quite proficient in those tools to reach the end goal of the game. And so the game is very good at teaching someone to use those things. It's very good at teaching them the specific things they need to reach the end goal. And so there's a whole lot of concepts in there. So, for example, there might be things like, in any game, there's usually save points in these first-person shooters. So if you go to get through a certain point and you suddenly die in the game, you don't go all the way back to the beginning. You just take a few steps back and you restart at that point. And so and there's a whole lot of concepts around this. I don't have time to go into them all, but it's the idea that now I'm starting to see teachers and schools take on those ideas and try to put them into their learning. How can we, and it doesn't have to be online either, actually do this in face-to-face environments, but take those concepts of how we play games and then apply them into how they teach. That said, this course was one that Vinny Stocker set up, and he did it for a conference here in Hong Kong about 4 years ago, I think it was. And so I asked him with permission if I could add it to this site. So there's a link to it on the on my course page, and you'll need to self-enroll into the course. But basically, what you'll see is what I've screenshotted there. Is you will see basically, yeah, it's a blurb at the top, and it's an image, a map, and it is an image map, an HTML image map. So as you put your mouse over it, you will see it change, and there's different activities. You need to find the link points on the map. And I think there's 5 activities within this map, and they are orphaned activities, so you don't see them listed in the course. But as you complete each one, little doubloons will appear. So like the badges I'd set up before, so little labels will appear, and the doubloons will spell out a word in order. And so once you got the 5 doubloons, you need to do a quiz where the only question is, what did the doubloons spell? And once you've put that in and got it correct, a big treasure chest will appear at the top. So Vinny really did this. He set this up as a way to demonstrate all the concepts I've been talking about today. And honestly, he's done that with 5 Moodle activities, and all the rest is labels and completion tracking and restrict access. So exactly what we've been talking about. So it's the idea you could do this over the whole course to make a game out of it. Yeah, Stefan, great. I'm glad you put that in there, because that was also one of the great things Vinny said. He was presenting this to teachers, and a lot of teachers were saying, well, I don't know how to do HTML code. And Vinny's response to them was, well, I don't either. He said, I found a site, and may have been that one, I can't remember what it was. He said, look, I just put the image in it, I just defined regions, and it gave me all the HTML code to put into the label. All he had to do was switch the editor into HTML mode and paste the code in there, and it just worked. So, and at the end of the day, yeah, that's the idea, I think, with all of these, is that you shouldn't have to know HTML code to do a lot of this work. Yeah, and Stefan, I'm one of those people that's come from the other end, you know, involved in websites since they began in the early 90s, and learned image maps and completely forgotten it because, yeah, not knowledge I really need. I can go to sites now and get it done for me. So yeah, so that's the 5 examples I have, and I'm assuming I've probably lost everyone from my course right now, from this presentation, because you've probably gone to that pirate course and trying to get through it. Just died a little. Which kind of brings me to the end. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so Guido, if you get that link, there is a problem, and I haven't solved it yet. Sometimes you get a little image that shows on its own. You might just need to reload the course page, just go back and go out and back into it. Yeah. There's actually a few people commented in the first run of this session saying that happens to them as well. So yeah, we think it's to do with the HTML block, actually, and the way the image is being put into that one. Yeah, but have fun with that. If you do complete that course and you've completed everything in my course, there will be a little badge for you to that'll be awarded to you. But let me finish this, just summing that up. So these are just examples. Oh no, did she want this, did she? Oh, and yes. Yeah. I just love these XKCD cartoons. Yeah. Questions found incomplete. There are some very weird ones in here. So what else I got? Yeah, so they're just 5 examples, and look, my whole goal was not to say these are maybe the best examples in the world, but really, I guess, to get our creative juices going, and to think about how we can use these things in our course. And you know, as Stefan said, I've been involved in iMoot from the start, and it's great watching other presentations. So I was watching Stefan's about 2 hours ago, and I was writing down notes of things I could change, and then I was in Justin Hunt's just before this, and I was actually using some of his code in my course while he was talking. I was thinking, this is great CSS, I need to add it to my course. And that's the thing, I think a lot of these presentations, it's not so much, not always that you'll take the exact examples, but at least it'll get us thinking. about these things. So that's my end goal with all this, that it'll get you thinking about how you can just use simple labels and these conditions and these restrict access capabilities to enhance your course in some way. And I guess for me, as I said at the start, this was really triggered from talking to teachers who said, is this possible? They're asking me the question. And they are things I'd never thought about. And I love that, because it made me really have to think about, while I knew that Moodle had these capabilities in there, I'd never thought about how to use them. So it was great to get these questions and then me go, actually it is. And, you know, I can go and implement these. So hopefully I've done the same for you. That's been the end goal. So just to end this up, because I'm getting near time, I guess two things. Is there any questions? And Guido, I know yours was back there. I'll need to scroll back and find it. But two, does anyone have any other ideas? If you've got something, you're welcome to grab the microphone, or there's only a few of us with the microphones. Or you can type in the chat. If you've used these labels, it'd be great to share them with other people that are here as well. I'll just scroll back and find your question. Yeah, combining. Yeah, definitely. I think there's some great things in that choice module, actually. I've seen some great examples of that. Love to do some examples of that one day as well. So Guido, your question before was about what happens if you turn off the system and turn it back on. So Moodle, if you turn it off in the course settings, and Moodle will warn you if people have already met some of the conditions. Yeah, it'll just warn you that some people have already met the conditions to complete different activities. But what happens is, if you turn it off, it's not that that information is lost, because if you turn it back on, those conditions will be met again by those users. They've already done the work to meet the conditions. And Moodle basically does a catch-up on it all. So, yeah, it shouldn't matter. What it will do, though, Guido, is if you have things like event notifications happening, it will trigger the events it'll issue the events again for those same users. So you'll need to watch some of those things. We've done that for our clients. We've customized plugins based on events. So they need to watch if they're tracking off for a course and back on, because there might be 300 users who have already met the conditions, and suddenly it will send out notifications based on that. But otherwise, your data shouldn't be lost. Yeah. The risk is probably more in changing the conditions for activities where users have already met the previous conditions, and then they may have got to a point in the course they can't get to again when you've changed the conditions. So just watch that. The comments, yeah, the conditional access are powerful, yeah. Yeah. There's some great things in the choice activity, like the limiting of the options is pretty awesome, actually. Seen some great examples of that. You could probably skew your results if you're running polls as well, you know. Who's your favourite presenter? I could have put in there, you know, Shane and anyone else, and made the limit 0 for everyone else. Guido, you're asking a question here, is the problem produced with logic errors and what you do? I don't know, actually. I don't know what the error is or what the problem is you're encountering. Yeah, it is, when you do get a complex setup, though, there is the potential for things to go wrong, obviously. Yeah. Good idea, Stefan, is to do a flowchart, yeah, on paper. Especially, I guess, because Moodle sequences them in a linear list, doesn't it, on the course page, but your workflow or the way people go through the course might branch off. So, yeah. Yeah, good. I guess, look, it could be in your logic. It could be a bug in Moodle. You might have some setup that issues a bug, or it might be a third-party plugin. Because remember, every plugin or the activity plugins can also implement their own conditions, and so it could be issues with that as well. So it could be in a number of areas. Yeah. Oh, I think, yeah, Gareth, I think there definitely is scope for a logic validation tool. That would be great. I'd love to see also a tool just to map out. So what Stefan's saying he does on paper, it would be great to have a little tool that really gives you an idea of the workflow as well. Yeah. And Greta, that's probably something you could probably put into the Moodle tracker. If there's difficult to understand warnings, that is something that I think is a valid tracker request. Simplify this or make it easier to understand. So I don't know if you know the Moodle tracker. Yeah. So honestly, I think even things like that are valid requests to go into the tracker. Yeah, I like that example. Yeah. Okay. There's no more questions though. Might wrap up. It's kind of about time. I was going to say, just last things. If anyone has any ideas, most welcome to put them into one of the forums. So if you have some ideas of different ways to use these systems, I'd love to hear your examples, because my goal is to actually keep building on those examples and put together like a demo course that we can just show teachers, say, hey, look what's possible. So if you have any ideas that you don't mind me borrowing, I'm happy to attribute them to you. But if you have any ideas, put them into the forum for this course. I'd love to hear from you. So. And thank you very much for everyone for humouring me by being here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Shane. I really don't think I promised too much at all when I introduced you. I think if there ever has been a brilliant 45-minute introduction to conditional activities, completion tracking, and so on and so forth, it has been this one. So it's great, and it just shows again how great iMoot is. And thanks again, that was brilliant. Next up is Andy with a session on language learning, and that will be in about 15 minutes. Thanks again. See you around. Bye.